For a conversation this evening, we're joined by Julie Mayfield, co-director of Mountain True and also a North Carolina State Senator, Alison Ormsby, who's a lecturer here at UNC Asheville in Environmental Studies, and interim co-director of Sustainability, Nathan Ramsey, who is the executive director of the Land of Sky Regional Council, and also the director of the Mountain Area Workforce Development Board. Thank you for being here. Julie, I want to start with you. We hear the word sustainability umpteen times a day. What are people talking about when they use this word?
Well, I'm going to estimate there are about maybe 60 people in this room, and I think you'd probably get 60 different answers. So I will give you mine. I think about two things when I think about sustainability. The first is the concept of doing no harm to future generations, or preserving things, making things better. Don't take anything away from future generations. So that's one piece. The other piece is the idea of, again, sort of doing no harm to people, planet, and the economy generally. So those three pillars that sort of make the world go round. So that's the way I think about it. But again, a lot of people, I'm sure I left something out. I'm sure people will tell me that I left something out.
I think you protected yourself with the disclaimer. You're good. Why has the conversation around sustainability been particularly salient in this region?
Wow. Well, because we live in one of the most biodiverse places on the planet. This is a very special region in terms of its ecology, and we have threats to it. So there are threats to it. It also is the lifeblood of the economy in this region. So we are a nature-based region. We are a tourist-based economy, not just here in Asheville, but throughout the region. And we have to protect the things that people come here to see. Now, we're lucky in that we have a lot of national forests and we have national parks, and those are protected, but there is still a lot of land that is not protected. And if we don't take care to protect that from encroaching development, from our ever-increasing population, expanding roads that just cut through everywhere, we're going to lose it.
And so I hear you saying, particularly to our viewers outside of this region, that maybe as you think about these three circles of the Venn diagram, that shaded piece in the middle is just larger for you all. Is that?
I think that's a good way to think about it. It is enormous for us.
Alison, what would you add to this conversation, either about the definition of sustainability or why it matters so much to this region?
Well, I think we should think about climate resilience, right? And some people call Asheville Climate City, or this area, because we have the Collider, we have ncIMPACT, we have the NOAA Climate Data Center. So when we think about adaptation and mitigation to climate change, we have to think about our stormwater management and the impact of people moving to the area and our millions of tourists every year. So if we want to maintain the quality of the place we live and tourists come to visit, we need to think about our actions now.
Yeah. Again, sort of that forward-looking perspective. Nathan, you want to weigh in?
Well, I think the economy, our environmental health in Western North Carolina are just one and the same. Over 10 million people come to our region every year from all over the world. Hospitality tourism is a multi-billion-dollar industry in Western North Carolina, but it goes far greater than that. A lot of companies come here because this is a special place. And you step outside and you look and see those mountains. I know when I was a student at UNC Asheville, and it still does today, when I walk out the front door of the library and look in the distance and see Mount Pisgah, it just has a special effect on you. So I don't think it's either protect the environment or protect your economy. I think here we can see, how we can do it, but do it all well and do both of that. I mean, there are challenges as our region continues to grow and other things, but we've made a lot of progress over the last 30, 40 years, and I think that potential to move forward is certainly there, and that's what the team at Land to Sky works on every day in support of our local governments.
I want to stay with you, Nathan, and on that topic for a moment, because part of the story is about this spirit of collaboration, these really dense partnerships that have evolved to support sustainability in the region. You run a council of government, it's a regional organization. Help us understand, what is the contribution of a regional organization to goals that are often local?
Absolutely, and I think it's about the power of partnerships and working together. Traditionally, mountain people had to do more with less. We're under-resourced compared to many other places. Land to Sky Regional Council is one of 16 regional councils in North Carolina, and I'm blessed to work with an amazing team that really wakes up every day and focuses on how we can better support our region and help the 20 local governments that are members of Land to Sky. Because at the end of the day, we're stronger together than we are as individual units of government. And so we try to work on things that, we may not always agree on the same things across our 4-county region of Madison, Buncombe, Henderson, and Transylvania counties. But, most folks want a good job for their family, for their kids. They want clean air, clean water. They want better opportunities in the future. And to follow up on what y'all were saying earlier, they want to leave this place better than we found it.
Alison, talk to us a little bit about the role of a university. We saw in David Hurst's piece, UNC Asheville doing really good research that is supporting some of the development of technologies in the region. What else is the university doing?
Right, so sustainability is one of our core values of the university, and our goal is to educate the future generation about all dimensions of sustainability, social, economic, and environmental. And we also have goals in terms of our operations. So recently we signed the nationwide carbon commitment with a pledge to be carbon neutral by 2050. And that's in line with Buncombe County's goal of 100% renewable energy by 2042. So that's just renewable energy, but when we're looking at our whole carbon footprint or our ecological footprint, we have to look at food, how are we procuring our food? What's our stormwater management? So it ties into classes and the way that the campus is operated and our grounds. And we have lots of accolades, like being a tree city, tree campus, Asheville's Tree City, and then Bee Campus. So it permeates the classes and then outside the classroom and applied research projects as well.
Love it. Julie, let's talk a little bit about state government, the role of state government in supporting sustainability. You wear two very interesting hats. How do you keep them both on your head at the same time?
Well, one of those hats is a 501c3 nonprofit, and so I am very careful to take that one off when I put the other one on. But the role of state government I think, is critical to all of this. So the legislature is fundamentally a policy-making body and a funding body. And you can do a lot with policy and money. And when the state is so inclined, it can set the framework, set a baseline, set audacious goals around sustainability, and I can talk a little bit about the energy bill that we just worked on. So the policy framework is one piece of that. The funding is another, and there are lots of programs within state government that fund local governments to do sustainability measures. That can come through the Department of Environmental Quality, that can come through Department of Transportation, it can come through a whole host of other avenues. For instance, the Department of Environmental Quality is the agency charged with distributing the settlement money from the Volkswagen tailpipe debacle. And that is, I mean, it's tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars over the course of a number of years. And you know, that money is going out to communities across the state to help them with electrification, bus transitioning to clean buses, EV charging stations, a whole host of things. So again, it's money and policy.
Talk to us about the energy bill for a little bit, if you will, because Nathan's point about we may have some differences in the way we think about these issues, but fundamentally there's a lot that we agree on is reflected in this bill. So how did it come about, and just walk us through the 30-second version.
Yeah. I'll compress 9 months of work into 30 seconds. So I think we all knew going into this session that we had an opportunity to get a really good energy bill. And one of the main drivers of that, two things I think. One of the main drivers was there was something that Duke Energy wanted. Duke Energy wanted something called multi-year rate making. That was very important to them as a company, not just here in North Carolina, but them nationally. So they wanted that very badly. We also had the Clean Energy Plan that the governor had initiated and was finalized a couple of years ago that set out carbon reduction goals for the state, 70% by 2030, carbon neutral by 2050. And so you have the confluence of these two things coming together and made people like me really optimistic. So the bill started in the House. They worked on it for months and months. The bill they came out with was 50 some odd pages long. It was a mess. Nobody liked it. Not even sure how they got it passed out of the House. It came over to the Senate, and we started working on it really very kind of, I want to say small negotiations, which I know bothered a lot of people because there are a lot of stakeholders in this conversation. I would say the Governor Cooper's goal was to get the goals of his clean energy plan embodied in state law, and that's what we did. So that clean energy framework, 70% by 2030, carbon neutral by 2050, is now the framework, the policy framework that we have in North Carolina for generating energy going forward. There's a lot of other things in the bill, but that's the basic element.
I'm going to ask one more question, and then we're going to open up the mic for questions from you all. So if you've got a question, if you would make your way to the microphone, that would be terrific. Alison, you talked about some things beyond renewable energy, and that was really important because we do have to think about this in a more comprehensive way. I'm wondering, Nathan, if you could say a little bit about the role that land management plays in these conversations.
Well, certainly, our region, we live in a special place. Our geography is a special place, and other things. Ultimately, Land to Sky is not a policy-making organization. We represent our local governments, and they make the policies, as far as land development in their respective jurisdictions. But we certainly try to support them in whatever their goals may be. So in some cases, it's helping them with stormwater implementation. So we know, how to protect when development does occur, that it doesn't impinge on our waterways, and that it doesn't, it better protects us in case, we have storms. Supporting things like resiliency. So we think of Eastern North Carolina when they have hurricanes, the damage that it causes. Well, we know really sadly and tragically the damage that it causes here in Western North Carolina when we have devastating flooding. And so trying to help build stronger networks in our region to protect when we have these ever-increasing harsh storms is certainly something, that we do. And, we support our local governments in our planning. Brownfield redevelopment is a great example of a truly win-win where you help build the tax base, you take a previously polluted site and put it to a good use. And we've developed so many brownfields. I mean, throughout our region, there's great examples in Hendersonville of the Gray Hosiery Mill, or along the Asheville riverfront, or River Arts District, or all over. So that's, I think at the end of the day, goes back to we've got to protect the place that we live, because that's really the key to our future economic prosperity.
Terrific, thank you. Questions from the audience? Absolutely.
Hi everyone, my name is Paulina Jones. I'm a senior here at UNCA and have been studying environmental management and policy for the past 2.5 years. I'd like to thank you all for coming out tonight to discuss with the Asheville community your commitment to helping our region and state achieve their sustainability goals. It instills hope in me, really, that we have community and state leaders who are willing to confront the drivers of climate change and implement programs and policies that will help North Carolina move towards a sustainable future for generations of human and non-human life to come. However, in addition to climate change, the stability of our environment is threatened by the current extinction crisis unfolding right now. The loss of biodiversity is directly linked to anthropogenic activity. So my question for this panel is this: as sustainability leaders in our community and state, have you considered implementing a regional and statewide biodiversity strategy to combat the human-caused drivers of biodiversity loss and the extinction crisis?
Thank you for that question.
I can
Go.
Okay. Okay. And so I'll put my Mountain True hat on now. You know, we have incredibly special places here at the high elevation, in the high elevations of our mountains. The spruce fir forest is a rare and disappearing ecosystem, and we have species of animals that live here that do not live anywhere else in the country, or in many cases in the world as well. So that's what I think about when I think about protecting the biodiversity particularly of this region. Now, thankfully, most of that high forest is under federal protection, either through the National Forest Service or the National Park Service. So I don't worry so much about the management of the parklands. The national forests, they are actually in the process, have been for the last 7 years, developing a management plan that's supposedly due out next month. In my view, it is these federal agencies that are really tasked with preserving, to the greatest degree we can, the biodiversity that we have. Now, of course, the Forest Service here in North Carolina can't impact power plants in China, right? And that is a huge driver of everything that you're talking about. But what we can do is do everything we can possibly do here in our region to protect those species that are special and that only live here.
Yes, I thought you wanted to weigh in. I could see you wanted to weigh in.
So speaking as part of the campus, but also volunteering with community organizations and being the faculty advisor for the Audubon Club, which Paulina is in on campus. So one thing we could think about is our urban canopy, right? So beyond the beautiful national forests and national parks we have a limited amount of trees in the city of Asheville and in Buncombe County and on campus, right? So I mentioned that Asheville is a tree city, UNC Asheville is a tree campus, and our trees provide carbon sequestration. So when we think about climate change and resilience, we need to keep that canopy. And also we have the urban heat island effect that is differently impacting different communities in Asheville. So I do think that we need to think at the local and regional level about no net loss for canopy and all the ecosystem services or the values that it provides for us, stormwater management, habitat. And I'll just also mention the Lights Out initiative that the Audubon group is pushing for. So when we think about our energy use, we could lower our energy use by turning off lights in buildings at night when they're not occupied and also avoid bird window collisions. So it's all connected.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that question. We've got time for one more question. That was a nice dance. I hope we got that on camera.
That was very kind. My name is Keith Thompson. I'm a local IT business owner and graduate of UNC Asheville the same year as Chairman Ramsey. My question is regarding local government, particularly ability to be a market maker for microgrids. So I'm going to read it. Our rural and small town Fire and police stations provide critical services for public health and safety. Community resilience during fires, floods, and extreme weather events can be strengthened by critical services microgrids. Microgrids save taxpayer money year-round, but ensure power during power outages. Can our local businesses build microgrids, create jobs, and help us serve and protect our citizens? And I think Chairman Ramsey knows something about how to help create jobs in our local area. Thank you.
Well,
It sounds like that was an alum to alum question.
I think I helped elevate Mr. Thompson in his class ranking. I was probably below him. So when I was a student here at
So
UNC
this is the way
Asheville,
he thanks you?
I don't know. But that was a long time ago. That was in the late 80s for young folks. That's a very distant time. But certainly we're really excited in the Land to Sky region to be home of one of the first microgrids in the state of North Carolina. In the town of Hot Springs, it was a very remote part of Madison County, right adjacent to the Tennessee border. It was often subject to power outages. And so there's a microgrid there with a solar array, battery storage to help that community. So when the transmission of power gets cut off, they can still have access to vital services in that community. So we have very many local governments that are innovative, and certainly the city of Asheville and Buncombe County, but other local governments as well are looking at how they can better use energy, save taxpayer dollars, and make their communities more resilient.
Can I add one thing to that?
Absolutely.
Through a partnership that has been going on now for, almost 5 years maybe, between the City of Asheville, Buncombe County, and Duke Energy, because of the work of those three entities and a number of folks who are in this room, we have in Western North Carolina more battery storage than any other region in the state, and I mean by far. And maybe the next panel is going to talk about that. But last I knew, we were up to 19 megawatts of battery storage. That includes the hot springs, and there's a battery storage place location here, at least one here in the city. So we're as a community, Asheville and Buncombe County and Western North Carolina generally are, we're going with this technology. Very important.
Well, the question and the answers were actually perfect segues to the next panel. I want to thank Nathan, Alison, Julie for being with us this evening. Fabulous insights. Can't wait to see what you do in the next 5 years.
Thank you.
Thank you.